Now to the recovery efforts resuming today at the site of the nation's worst air disaster in more than a decade. Investigators have all three of the black boxes now from the Army helicopter and passenger jet that collided near Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. All 67 people on board the two aircraft were killed. Two of the airport's three runways will be closed as crews work to pull the plane's fuselage from the Potomac River. CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve is at Reagan National Airport and joins us now. Chris, good morning.
Well, good morning. More than 100 flights canceled yesterday because of those runways being closed. There was also a decision announced by the Secretary of Transportation to indefinitely close the airspace around Washington Reagan National Airport to helicopter traffic because of this deadly crash. Now, the NTSB hopes to begin the process of salvaging wreckage, pulling it out of the water and getting it onto barges as soon as today.
Crews have recovered at least 41 bodies from the wreckage of the American Airlines regional jet and Army Black Hawk helicopter sitting in the Potomac. They're waiting for additional equipment to pull pieces of fuselage from the river in the hopes of reaching the unaccounted for. Video captured the moment the chopper slammed into the side of Flight 5342 as it was on final approach to Washington's Reagan National Airport. It appears the helicopter was flying nearly 200 feet higher than it should have been at the time of the crash.
As a pilot, you never stop flying. He didn't give up all the way to the ground or all the way to the water. Really, you would have been moving those controls and trying to figure out what's going on.
Tim Lilly's son Sam was the first officer on Flight 5342. The 28-year-old was engaged to be married. That very day, his family was picking out wedding venues. His father, Tim, is also a former Black Hawk pilot who says he's flown that very route many times.
It didn't look to me like the helicopter either understood where the CRJ was or, they made a mistake.
How are you remembering your son today?
Sam, I consider Sam a spirit that was living in an earthly body, and now he's back in his spirit body.
As the Lilly family and those of 66 others lost in the crash wait for answers, NTSB investigators have begun the grim and painstaking process of combing through the wreckage and soon sifting through data from the black boxes recovered from the icy Potomac. NTSB board member Todd Inman. How confident are you the voice recorder, you'll be able to salvage what's on there?
So the CRJ 700, the commercial plane, its voice recorder, whenever it came in, of course, had some water intrusion. Not unusual at all. In fact, it's sometimes rare not to see something damaged. We feel very good about the potential to being able to get a full download from that, from everything we've seen.
Just the day before Wednesday's deadly crash, another regional jet about to land at Reagan had a close call.
I just traversed a helicopter over Georgetown, northbound, 300 feet.
The pilots received an alert from the onboard collision avoidance system about a military helicopter and aborted the landing attempt. CBS News has identified at least 4 other close calls between helicopters and planes around the airport, including a 2018 incident where a pilot took last-second evasive maneuvers to avoid an FAA plane landing on the same runway the jet from Wichita was cleared to land on this week. In this previously unreported case, a controller failed to warn the two aircraft in advance.
Yeah, we missed a call there and did 2 birds to avoid that aircraft.
And Chris, as we are learning more, you mentioned there's still more questions. What can you tell us about the staffing in the control tower at the time of the crash?
Yeah, what we are learning is that while the staffing was deemed not normal, and while sources tell us it was adequate to operate the airport, you had 2 different controllers doing the jobs of 2 people. To say it another way, 2 people doing the jobs of 4 people. One of those controllers was handling helicopter traffic and also assisting with planes taking off and landing, a job that would normally be done by 2 people at that time of day.
What are the next steps in the investigation, Chris?
Yeah, so the NTSB is waiting on some barges and some cranes, some lifting equipment to arrive It should be in place today. Once those barges are anchored in the right places, they've been using sonars to map the debris field. They will start to remove the wreckage from the water. The D.C. fire chief says they believe the wreckage has to come out of the water in order for them to access the remaining unaccounted for bodies. So that is also part of this effort. And right now, the primary focus is trying to recover as many of the unaccounted for as possible.
All right, Chris Van Cleve at Reagan National, thank you.